Hi, welcome everyone. Welcome to Refueling Station Live, a place where leaders of color can gain inspiration to live, do, and be well. I am your host, Dr. Erin Wheeler, a nationally respected leadership coach, and I've also have about 15 years, if you can believe it or not, of leadership experience in nonprofit and higher education. And so happy that you're joining me, whether you're joining me live or joining me later. All this information is good at any time. So thank you so much for taking the time out for you. Thank yourself for taking the time out for yourself. And thank you so much for taking time out to be with me. So this series, I think it'll be a series. Every time I write or I prepare for each live, I think that I'm done and I can move on. But then there's so much more to this topic of burnout. And my last live, which you can catch on YouTube, you can catch on my Facebook or LinkedIn page. We talked about burnout. I shared a little bit about my personal burnout, and I also shared a little bit about what burnout is and who and why and the what of burnout, right? And so today's topic, we're going to still talk about burnout, but we're going to talk about the physical impact of burnout. So I'll share a little bit of last week's live, and then you can catch the rest on YouTube, Aaron Wheeler, PhD, on all my actually YouTube, LinkedIn, and Facebook, Aaron Wheeler, PhD. So burnout is really mental and physical exhaustion related to work related stress over a prolonged period. We talked about how burnout for leaders of color are different. Our people of color is different. Why is it different? It's different because we have to show up as the inauthentic version of ourselves at all times. It's at work, it's in the store, it's how we present ourselves. And we have to do this in a toxic workplace. We have to live in a systemic environment. So we have extra layers to our burnout, right? Because it takes extra energy to be something that you're not or to act unnaturally, right? And so I shared that there's three characteristics of exhaustion, of burnout. One is fatigue, which is exhaustion, but it's a different type of exhaustion. So if you're tired, you can go to sleep, take a nap, drink some water, take a walk. But fatigue is a deep tiredness that you can't really get rid of. It is when you don't have enough mental energy to figure things out, or you don't have enough emotional energy to care about anything. There's also cynicism is a characteristic of burnout. That is when you feel negative about something at one point in time you were excited for. So you may have been excited or passionate about your career, or your job, or your mission or your calling. And then at some point you just get so negative and hopeless. And that actually leads to you feeling like you can't do this or you're not made for this. So the third characteristic will be feeling or doubting your natural ability to do what you know you are capable of doing. That is a sense of self inefficacy, where you feel like you can't do those things uh, like you should or you could, or you know that you can, right? I also talked about who burns out. Overachievers, I put myself in that category. People who are, I would say, people who are feel like their meaning or value for life is tied to their jobs. And then the third group, which is slightly different, are people who their calling or their mission is tied to their jobs, or they feel like they're called to do this work. So that I will include in that category your educators, your health practitioners and professionals, your mental health practitioners, professionals, of those people who have a deep sense that this is more than a job for me. It's about helping people, and I need to make sure that the people get their help at at all expenses or costs, right? And sometimes that could be to our own detriment. So today, I want to talk about the physical impact. So we hear burnout, we think about career, we think about job, we think about being stuck or tired in that sense, in that career sense. But our jobs take up so much of our time. We spend half of our life working, right? 8 hours a day, 40 hours a week or more at some jobs, right? And then that mental taxation that comes with working extra hours or thinking about it outside of work. You can tag on that to that 40 hours. We forget that our bodies are included in this and that we can't separate, just like we can't really hardly separate life from work because we work to take care of our life and to make sure we have everything. We can't separate us from the work, our bodies, our mind from the work, right? And I think it's really important because as I said on the last live, getting out of burnout it's a mental shift, right? And so part of that mental shift, you really have to consider, what is this costing me? It may be six figures, it may be the perfect job, it may take care of my house, my home, but what is it really costing me? And for a lot of leaders of color, people of color, it's costing us our health. So today I want to talk about how exactly stress impacts our health. So bear with me. If you know me, I have a background in biology. I have an undergrad and a master's in biology, and then my PhD is in STEM education. So I wanted to be able to teach and educate people in biology. I dusted those degrees off for this live, and I am so surprised in doing this. But the nerdy scientist in me wanted to know exactly how stress causes physical ailments, right? So we hear about it all the time. Joe, just, reduce the stress. You need to be calm and do this and do that. But have you ever really thought about how it actually affects our body? And there's a real simple, well, in this conversation, I'm going to simplify it to the point where you can see the cause and effect of stress in your life and how easy it is for us to have stress impact our physical health. Doesn't matter if you're young or if you're old, stress literally can take you out. So let's start off with what is stress and the three types of stress. So the three types of stress is acute, chronic, and traumatic. All stress can impact your body, but they may impact it in slightly different ways. So how do you know if you're suffering from acute, chronic, or traumatic? So I'm gonna give you a little definition. So acute is a very short, specific kind of stress. It happens, it's over. It could be you arguing with someone. It could be you cursing someone out in traffic. It could be you almost getting in a wreck. It can be you getting on stage and doing a presentation. That's acute stress, right? And our body still adapts to that. You can feel that fluttering in your stomach, your heart beating really fast. Is your body figuring out, say, hey, he or she needs the energy and resources to compensate for whatever's going on outside. I don't know what it is. It could be a bear, could be not, but all I know is that they're really stressed. And so I'm going to get more blood pumping and I'm going to get more glucose to the brain so they can think clearly and handle whatever it is. So the body really doesn't know. It just knows that I need to react. The second kind of stress is chronic. So chronic stress is that stress that endures over a period of time. This is a sustained stress. So it could be a difficult relationship. You going through financial struggles. You're dealing with a mental or physical health issue. This is ongoing and it lasts a period of time. And then the third is traumatic. This is where you experience a traumatic or witness a traumatic event, but your mind keeps telling you it's happening again, and your body acts like you're right back there in that moment. So those are the three types of stress. But again, the body does not really recognize or distinguish between the two. It just knows it's stress. It's not calm. Our senses are getting some indicators and our brain is processing, right? And it just says it's stress. So how does that stress, the outside, the arguing, the presentation, the car wreck, the difficult relationship, the finance, that's happening on the outside of our body, but how does it affect the inside? So when we have stress, then we release this hormone called cortisol. And our bodies release this hormone actually as a way of protecting us from stress, right? But it goes with the saying, too much of a good thing can be bad. And too much of cortisol for a long period of time actually has a negative impact on your body. And these negative impacts you've heard of, you know of, you just probably didn't know was connected. But cortisol is the stress hormone, and it has its hand in almost every part of our body, from our brain, our heart, our muscles, our nervous systems, our digestive system. So that's when you get those, you feel like if you're really stressed out, you can't really digest food well and you have upset stomach. All of that is related to stress. No matter what type of stress it is, it has an impact, right? And so if the body is at high levels of stress at all times, eventually it's going to build up. So when cortisol builds up in our bodies, we start to see those things, the impact of stress happen, right? What is that? And it causes damage. It actually causes damage to our body when we have a buildup of cortisol. So what kind of damage? I hope you're asking that question. What kind of damage does happens to your body when cortisol is high? And so too much cortisol actually weakens the immune system. So when if you remember or can reflect on times when you're sick, all the time, like no matter what's going around, you're going to catch that bug from your kid at daycare. You're going to catch the flu from your colleague at work, or it could even be your allergies are part of your immune system is acting up. You're going to get that stomach flu from somewhere else, or you just feel just sick all the time. That's because your immune system's down. The cortisol is telling it, hey, we got to reroute some things, some other places to take care of some other things. And so the first thing that goes will be your immune system. And so the other things that happens, again, you know what they are. Your blood pressure increases, your sugar level increases. So that means when you're stressed, you are highly at risk for hypertension. You're highly at risk for type 2 diabetes because there's prolonged blood sugars. That's characteristics of diabetes. And you cannot sleep, disrupted sleep pattern. So that's how the body impacts it, no matter your age. So I don't know if it's Google, it could be me looking up all this stuff, or it could just be a sign of the time. In the past 2 weeks, CNN reported how burnout and microaggressions towards people of color actually impacts your body. And yesterday, not even preparing for this, it came across my Google alerts that people in their 30s and 40s are at higher risk of strokes. That's not just a fluke. And I can tell you my own story. I've never had high blood pressure, tried to be healthy. My family has, we've been trying to break generational curses over hypertension, diabetes, and high cholesterol. So we had a family change when I was a teenager. So this has always been a part, but I did all that I was supposed to do, but still ended up in the ER with hypertension. Still 3 or 4 weeks ago, I still had to go to the doctor and say, okay, they were like, what is going on? And that was a change in my routine where I stayed up late. I was working. I wasn't drinking. I wasn't taking care of myself, and it triggered it quickly. I was still on medicine, taking everything I had to do, but this is real. And if you can reflect on your own health, how you sleep, and how you feel, you can be doing the same things, but it's not, maybe not as consistent, or you're not prioritizing these things. So it's so important for us to understand that stress, yes, Michelle, I see your comment. Yes, stress literally kills. And even though we think we're young, I'm 38 and I still think I'm 20. We're not. Even if you're 25, I've seen how college stress can hurt college students. So don't let this be an age thing. Take a look at your own health and understand your own situation. And you can probably see that I need to make some changes, right? So the question is not how do you improve your health? We're not going that zoomed out. I want to talk about how do you lower cortisol levels, right? I would be lying if I tell you you can eliminate all stress from your life, right? Sometimes there is even a fourth type of stress called eustress. We won't talk about that today, which is a good kind of stress. It's just that little fire that lights under you, right? That gets you moving. Some people take advantage of that and say that's why they procrastinate. That's another video. But we can eliminate stress, all stress out of our life. The best thing we can do is try to lower our cortisol levels. And one piece that's really important here is for people of color, if you are a descendant of enslaved people in America, we are preloaded with traumatic stress, which means we're already born on level 2. That means any kind of acute, chronic, or traumatic stress on top of that takes us over the edge. And so we have to be mindful of our self-care. And I'm not talking about the massages, the manicures, I'm not talking about that type of self-care. I'm talking about the self-care that actually impacts your body. And so I have 10 and a bonus of ways to lower cortisol. So the first is hydration. There's different type of research and articles about how much water you should drink. Thing is, make sure you drink water. And for those of you who like coffee and the spirits and the the alcohol, that takes away from hydration. So it's a combination of drinking more water. Make sure it's filled with electrolytes. That's a part of water too. Make sure it comes from natural fruit and vegetables, not the high sugary juices, but that also helps. Hydration. If you're dehydrated, that signals to your body something's happening and that you're stressed. So dehydration stresses you out more, increases your cortisol level. If you feel like you can't think, you're in a brain fog, you're tired. I know it. I know when I just can't even figure out left from right. I can't do that hydrated, but even when I'm dehydrated, I definitely can't do it. So I know, all right, Erin, down some water. And I immediately feel great. If you can't sleep, 9 times out of 10, actually, water helps put you to sleep if you're working with your body rhythms, right? Next point, you already know it, exercise. Now, I'm not gonna lie. I told you last week, I wish I was one of those people who wake up ready and put on gym clothes and say, I cannot wait to get to the gym. That's not me. I have my Peloton, we're working on it, but exercise, just focus on getting your body moving. The pandemic has wrecked every part of our bodies, from our hips not walking to our insoles not having on shoes. You have to keep your body moving. You don't realize how many steps you take just walking to and from the office, to and from the car, to and from the store. Our lifestyles change, and that had a profound impact on our well-being. So if you figure out exercise snacks is what we call it. Taking a 10-minute walk 3 times a day. If you can get a 30-minute walk in, great. If you can't, take walking meetings. Sometimes I say, please, can we not do Zoom? Let me do a call, pop in my headphones, go outside for a walk. You can, while you're on YouTube, if you're downtime, or if you just need a break, look up, things you can do at your chair, stretches, desk yoga, move your body. If you are in a place or working from home, I know for me, I have a Xbox Connect. It's almost vintage now, but I would just go and play a game because it gets me up. It's mindless, but I'm still moving. So exercise, just get moving. I don't want to focus on, is it weight, is it walking, is it spin? No. Just get your body moving. Even 5 minutes of your of elevating your heart rate can do wonders for you. Therapy. So I'm going to couple the next 3 things: therapy, taming negative thoughts, deep breathing, and meditation. So all of these work on one thing. And that one thing is called rumination, where you can't get out of this thought loop pattern. And it's usually a negative thought loop pattern. So what therapy does, it gets you out of that loop pattern. It gets your voice outside of you, and it breaks that loop because you're talking with it from someone and gaining another voice and perspective. In the same way, taming negative thoughts. So if you can, if you recognize your thoughts and say, why am I anxious? What am I thinking about? Oh, it's that. you can break it and then flip that negative thought to something positive. That breaks the rumination loop. If you're deep breathing, you have to concentrate on your breathing. You really can't focus on anything else. So if you focus your thoughts on how your chest and your diaphragm is rising and settling, then you are breaking that negative loop. And then meditation, sitting quietly, actually helps you to, one, be present in your thoughts, look at them, see them, and then push it away. And that actually breaks the rumination pattern. Um, Thinking constantly of negative things actually raises your cortisol level. So while you feel like that's a mental thing, has nothing to do with my body, your body's still responding because it's constantly in a stressful situation, and it has to do with your thoughts. Eat whole foods, right? So when you're stressed, your body has to compensate and it needs more energy. Carbohydrates are the quickest energy, the breads, the pastas, the chips, anything that probably tastes great is a carbohydrate, right? And your body craves it, but you can counteract that craving by eating whole foods and giving it real natural sugars so you can tame those cravings. Have fun, laugh, find a comedy, find something that you laugh about. I think for me, if you know me, I am silly. I come from a family of very silly people. We have a good time over nothing. And even at the height of like one of my most stressful jobs, I would, that was my therapy for myself. I would have to laugh it off because I would probably start crying. But have fun, laugh, dance, turn your house into a club, like dance, put on some music, be silly. Like that releases endorphins, which counteract cortisol. It's simple. Don't take life so seriously. Find a way to laugh and be grateful. Rest, napping, sitting, staring, dreaming is one way. So don't say I don't have time for a nap. It doesn't mean you have to get under the covers. Um, Next live, I'll tell you practical ways, but I used to put a fake meeting on my calendar and just put my head on a desk. Like it was just one of those days. So you can find ways to just close your eyes, unplug, which is the next, uh, tip for you to lower cortisol is unplug. So rest could mean just closing your eyes and getting rid of the lights, the electronics, the music, just sitting still and quiet with your eyes closed. You don't have to get into deep sleep, but just simply shutting your body down. And with that, unplugging, meaning unplugging from social media. If you really think about in the span of, I won't even say 5 minutes, 2 minutes, if you're scrolling, you're going to scroll by another unarmed Black person being murdered. You're going to scroll by the news. You're going to scroll by some mess. You're going to scroll by somebody lying and faking it life. You're going to scroll by, like, think about how much your brain sees in a 2 minute scroll. And then you wonder why, I, I hate this term, but you feel some kind of way. You might have to put a name. I want you to put a name to that feeling. I'm anxious. I'm a little bit sad. Nothing really happened in these last 2 minutes, but why do I feel this way? It's because our brain is unconsciously absorbing the negative things we see on social media. So whether that's cleaning up your timeline, or for me, I've set a legit time lock on my IG and Facebook. I can't access Facebook or Instagram from the time of 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. And it has done wonders for my mental health, especially on this journey of transitioning to full-time entrepreneurship. So that is number 10. And then the bonus tip is positive relationships. So you have to figure out a way to get around people who are not just positive, but they have a foundation and they're not negative, who can encourage you and they can remind you of all the good things that you should be doing for yourself. Positive relationships lowers cortisol. And again, CNN actually put out that loneliness is killing us. Isolation is killing us. And while we feel connected through Instagram or social media where we feel like we know these people, that's not real connections. So making sure you connect and you build relationships with positive people. Doesn't have to be your family or friends. Meet people if you need to replenish or recycle your friend circle. Do that. Like find people who you need to be associated with, right? So those are all my tips for lowering cortisol. Now, will it be easy? No. My next live will actually give you some tips of how to integrate self-care and be intentional about it. But before we get to the live, my weekly refuel challenge is that you take one of the 10 or 11 things that I discussed: hydration, exercise, therapy, taming negative thoughts. So that's journaling or deep breathing, meditation, putting more whole foods in your diet, um, having fun, figuring out times to rest. How do you unplug from social media? And then how do you find positive relationships or stewarding positive relationships? This week's challenge, I want you to pick one of those and focus on how you're going to commit to improving, integrating that into your weekly, daily habits, right? Just one. We get off track sometimes because we want to do it all. But if you have one capstone good habit, all of the other habits will fall into place, right? So if you're hydrated, you are not craving food as much. You have a little bit more energy. You may want to exercise. When you're exercising, your body's going to crave the good stuff, and that's going to naturally start attracting you to whole foods. So pick one of these things and commit with intention. How am I going to improve this? How am I going to drink more water? How am I going to eat more whole foods? And I want you to plot your first 3 steps or first 3 ways you're going to integrate this. Do you have to set reminders? Do you have to buy a pretty bottle if you want to do that? Do you have to remind yourself not to drink so much sodas or limit your caffeine? Do you have to limit conversations with negative people? So figure out what you need to do to get this done. And as I wrap up, there's 3 things I want you to do for me. I want you to go to gracefullyproductive.com/summit and learn all about the Will Wise Leader Summit. It is scrolling on the screen. It is a great event I'm planning for leaders of color. It is part wellness, it's not a conference. It's not going to be a jam-packed conference. It's part retreat. We're going to do some personal development because if you don't get yourself together, you can't be a great leader, right? So there has to be a personal part in this. So it's not all professional. You'll grow personally. You'll learn some strategies of how to be a wise and well leader. You have to lead from a whole place. And it's just not going to be talking about wellness. We're going to actually model how almost everything on this list, we're going to actually model how to do this in real life. And so sign up. I made it, eliminated all excuses. If you want to invest in this from your own personal piggy bank, I have payment plans. If you want to use some of those employer sponsored professional development funds, the fiscal year is ending. It's the perfect time to capture those overages before budgets turn over. I have an actual curriculum and a guide to have conversations with your employer so you can encourage them that this investment is going to benefit you in your organization. So it'll be a great time, great food. If you want to visit New Orleans, this is the perfect time. It is August. It's going to be fun. We're going to have time to really mix and mingle and explore the town. It's the perfect thing. It's dynamic and it has everything we need. Fun. You have a time to rest and unplug. You have a time to meet new people, build your network. You have time to figure out what's going on with your life and your purpose. It's something in it for everyone. Entrepreneurs, people who want to be in senior leadership, people who want to start businesses and start them well, people who are in the C-suite, directors, higher education, nonprofit, pastors, ministers, everybody can benefit from this summit. So early bird special is from this month to next month, but it's only 15 spots, so I don't want you to wait on this opportunity. I want you to be intentional about it. So put this date on your calendar and figure out how you're going to make your way to New Orleans, Louisiana, August 17th through the 20th. So thank you so much. If you want to connect with me, if you're feeling burnout and need a plan to exit it, I am have some space for one-to-one coaching. You can also visit gracefullyproductive.com to sign up for a free mini coaching session just so you can get a glimpse of how all of this coaching stuff works. And you can follow me on Gracefully Productive. That's my new Instagram. Or you can still follow me on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram at Aaron Wheeler PhD. So thank you so much for letting me come into your lunch break or your evening dinner if you're watching this later. But thank you so much for taking the time out to visit the refueling station. Bye-bye.